Now as we get more into the case cutting, you'll notice that I've cut the there's the front of the cylinder, front of the case. Here's the rear of the case, and you notice how much I've cut here. And sometimes, like I said, you'll have to cut in here and also this area. Depends how far the piston comes down. It'll come so far down with a 50mm crank, it'll come down farther. So you need to put the crank and the piston and the cylinder in, and as a dry run with your dummy bearings after you get all this cleaned up, and rotate the crank 180 degrees or 360 degrees and make sure there is no obstructions or anything that it is hitting on. Come on. And here's this area. Then you can see how well the holes are cleaned out. You want to clean out the holes here, and here, and here, and use your Q-tip on them. And in here, and you want to make sure that you get all of your little dust out of this in here, this hole, and in here. You want to wash everything out. And what I do when I do my cutting, I usually use a little bit of oil, motor oil, a 2-stroke oil. That way it acts like a lubricant for the bit to cut better, and the finish looks better. But you have to wash that off really good with hot water before you go and test your thing. And like I said, this is an AF16E motor, and I don't know about the AF23s or any of those. Here's a good picture of, these are pretty good pictures I took. This shows and you can see the holes right here are all cleaned out. Everything has been cleaned out of any kind of abrasive dust that could get into the well there. Now I have, and you can see where I've cut all of this off here. I leave as much aluminum on as I can for stability, but with the 54mm piston, a lot of times the skirt or the very bottom of the piston will come down and hit right here, or in the front. It depends on the piston kit that comes with it, and all pistons are a little bit different. And that's not very good. And I'll use 120 grit barrels on the end here, and you can see I've followed the little black line all the way around. Now when I put the top, what do they call it, gasket on here, it'll go all the way around here, and this will be perfect track for the boost port. And on these here, since the cylinder edge is going to come down to it'll come down to about here. I don't smooth these out at all. I don't really care about them. Because they're not effective in the engine, and they will, smoothing them out won't do anything but thin the walls. And then when you put your crank in, you want to make sure your crank is centered between the two bearings, and that when your crank or your conrad comes up, it meets right in the half, right in the very center of your cases, right here and right back here. It's really easy to get alignment, but you just want to make sure these little things are done, because you've only got a 1-cylinder engine, and that'll show you the back there. And you'll notice I don't touch the intake sides for the cylinder ports at all. And here's the conrod in the back. Now what I like to do is, what I will do, and you can here's one of the problems. Okay, let's see if I can show it to you. If you'll notice right there, that little hole right there is the bolt that goes across. Now, since that's going to be covered by the cylinder edge, the cylinder edge will cover from here all the way down, all the way around. But that can be an air leak. So what you have to do with this is you can leave this open like that. That's not a problem. You can also put a little bit of JB Weld on there if you want to. But if you want to seal this up, you won't seal it right here. You'll go over to where the bolt goes into the block, and you'll make sure that that bolt, 8mm bolt, is airtight going in. That way you can have case pressure going through here, but it won't escape. And as long as it's airtight, you can do it any way you want. Okay. Like I said, a lot of these pictures are redundant, but, and this is with the already cut out gasket on it. So I know that everything's going to fit right. Now one thing I want to point out about these gaskets and these blocks right here, you're always going to get a little bit off. These aren't cut, I haven't touched these. But you're going to get a little bit off on the gasket here, here, up in here. Now that's not the fault of the motor. It's the gasket. It's just the way it was cut. So you don't have to cut out all the rest of the aluminum around it. You got to remember that the engine stays the same. It's every different cylinder has different size ports, a little bit different, and their tolerances are a little bit different. So you can see here along the edge here, and the edges right here. That's no big deal, as long as it's not interfering with the flow. Then what I've done is I put the studs in. The best way to do the studs, I've found, is to take, you'll need, instead of 4 nuts, you'll need 8. And what you do is you get to the top here, and you'll put your first nut on about a 1/2 inch down. Then what you do is you put another nut on, which will stay at the top, and you back your lower nut upwards to where you can lock the 2 nuts together. Then what you do is you take a socket, 8mm, I believe it's 8, could be 10. I think, yeah, it's 10. And you'll put it on here, and you'll twist the socket so that this bottom part sits or fits better. And what I like to do is I like to get, there's 2 kinds of rods. There is a thicker rod down here, and there's a thinner one. It just depends what your piston comes with. Piston comes with these. I mean your cylinder kit. So I like to take some either red or blue Loctite. This is after I take my little swabs here, and I'll go down and clean those holes out really well. I will take the red Loctite, put it in here, and then I will seat these as much as I can, because you want them to stick in there. The thing is, when you go to take your cylinder on or off, you want just to take the nut off and pull the cylinder all the way off. You don't want these to come out of the base. It's just, it's hard to get them back in, and this is with the piston all the way down. Now we're going to start getting into the cylinder. And the reason that I talk about a wider diameter studs, this is the reason. With this terminal cylinder, remember, it has the little red nitrile rings that go here, and it has the larger one that goes right around here. But you can see the clearance in between the rod here and the hole. And that can cause you problems lining up the cylinder just a little bit. So this is the normal size rod, but you can get one that this is actually a millimeter thinner in diameter, and that's the one I don't like for these big water cooled. For the other ones, it really doesn't matter. Now there you have your rear boost port. You have your we have all the studs in, and here's your intake for your water right here. And I put a little bit of oil in there just to keep things going. And if I take it out and I check it, then I'll go and wash it off really well. Okay, now we're getting into the fun and the sun part. Now this is a 54 millimeter Charmo water cooled cylinder, and I've had a number of them. I really like them. They're a little temperamental, but once you get them dialed in, they're hell on wheels. They'll put a rocket in your pocket. Okay, next one.